It was built when Germany still had a king. And here we are driving it in 2025.
Welcome to the episode of Jay Leno's Garage, once again visited by automotive royalty from the Nethercutt collection in Sylmar, California. You know, before the F1 McLaren, before the Bugatti Veyron, before any of those cars, this was, I think, the very first supercar. This is a 1913 Mercedes, a Double Phaeton Torpedo, 95 horsepower, capable of just about 100 miles an hour. In 1913, you know, most people hadn't gone much faster than 10 or 12 miles per hour. Maybe if they rode on a train once, they went 30 miles an hour. This was the original supercar, just an incredible machine. The car had only been invented literally a few years before, and you have this rakish, I mean, it still looks fast now. I think it's one of the most exciting automobiles ever. You know, Mercedes was always the leading car. In fact, this was actually a Benz. For those of you that don't know, Mercedes-Benz has now become Mercedes-Benz till about 1924, 1926, that era in there. There was a French car dealer named Emile Jelnik. He was one of these great car salesmen. He had a hard time selling German cars in France because the Germans and they didn't get along. There was a lot of various wars in between and things happened. And he told Benz, I'll tell you what, if I can sell like 36 of your cars, can I name them after my daughter? The name Mercedes, that was his daughter's name, because that had a nice, I forgot what it meant in Spanish, but the name Mercedes was a rather pleasant and pleasing name, and he thought it would not be offensive and too German for his French audience. And he was hugely successful. He was so successful, they kept the name, and then eventually he had his daughter's picture hanging in the dealership, and this is the car my daughter named it, and all that kind of stuff. So just a little bit of history for you, because it was actually a Benz, but it was called Mercedes, and then later, of course, Mercedes-Benz. Let's bring in Cameron Richards. You know him. He's the curator at the Nethercutt Museum. Good to see you, my friend.
Great to be back,
you guys
Jay.
have, like, you really made your YouTube channel, spruced it up a little bit, got a lot of things
we got a couple cameras.
Let's
we're
put
trying.
it up there so people can see.
Well, thank you for that. Trying
Tell
to be like you.
Tell it what it is. What's the...
Just the Nethercutt collection. You can find us on YouTube, and
okay.
You'll have to sort through some lovely Jay Leno episodes that we've done with you.
Well, you'll see cars you don't see anywhere else. You know, J.B. Nethercutt, he was one of the first car collectors. He and Bill Harrah. I mean, people had dabbled in cars, but nobody really thought about cataloging and saving things and putting things in files as opposed to just driving old cars around, you know. And he started way back in the day. And he would buy cars and then sell them and then buy them back again. And,
right.
Yeah, it was an exciting time. But you guys won Pebble Beach how many times?
Six
times. Best of show, best of class, best winner, all that kind of stuff. So very exciting. I imagine this must have won.
They got best in class in 2001.
Okay.
We've had this car since 1984, and it had been restored in the 70s. However, it was lowered and had incorrect fenders. So around 2000, we decided to make it perfect how it was when it first left the showroom.
Well, 95 horsepower was unheard of.
Oh, this car is ridiculous for its era.
I know.
You said it is a supercar.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, a Model T was 22 horsepower. This was almost 100 horsepower. And a Model T topped out about 42 miles an hour. There weren't any roads you could even drive this thing that fast on back in the day. And you know, it looks fast, because you see a lot of cars from this era, and they still look like carriages. They're rather clumsy looking, and you know, they have all these you know, big high hat kind of look to it. Whereas this looks rakish. Look at the hood, the fenders, the streamlining. It's really a sexy car. It's just amazing. And it's chain drive.
Yeah, double chain drive. Yeah. You could definitely feel it in the clutch. These were raced back in the day. These are kind of Vanderbilt Cup era cars.
Right.
And most of them could achieve 70, but with this one, this has coachwork by Henry Labordette. So these are really, really light cars considering how big and old they are. But this car could easily achieve 100 miles an hour, which is like 300 miles an hour today.
Right. And you know, they always say that Germany was the birthplace of the car, but France was the nursery. Because all the real changes came from the French. The Panhard system, engine in the front, transmission in the middle, rear end in the back. That's them. The Panhard rod, all this kind of stuff. And then what happens is kind of what happens in California. You get the socialist government comes in, no, that's too fancy. They get rid of that. You can't have that. They had to build small. They couldn't. The coach building industry just disappeared, and they just stopped innovating, except for Citroën and a few others. But yeah, really interesting. Let's show this engine. This is one of the great engines. Open that hood up.
Absolutely.
Let's see what we got here.
And speaking about the coach building, on the other side of the hood that we'll show you, just how integrated the hood goes into the body. They really thought of everything back then. So here is your 580 cubic inch, which is about 9.6 liters,
yeah.
4-cylinder.
4-cylinder, and I mean, each piston's like a paint can, isn't it?
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah.
3 overhead valves per cylinder, and it runs great.
You know, it's funny, we stuck with the flathead for so long. People think overhead valves got invented in the late 40s or something. But it goes right back to the very dawn of, they always knew they were better breathing. Just the metallurgy didn't support it. And in America, flatheads, you can make them oil tight, you know, you just tighten the head down, and they were dependable, and they were workhorses. You know, the Europeans were much more for sophistication and overhead cams and all that kind of. I mean, the 1913 Peugeot that won Indianapolis. Oh my God, Hemi head, all kinds of cool stuff. That seemed to happen years later, but it was really at the dawn. Beautiful brass, copper, wonderful motor.
Well, it's amazing too. You were just talking about that people really didn't know that technology was around that long ago. When I show people around the museum, we have a Roush and Lang electric car and a little Toledo steam car, and people who even know about steam cars are shocked by it. But electric cars, over 100 years ago.
Well, they had electric before you had gas cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These just advanced a lot faster.
Yeah. In 1906 and 7, a third of the vehicles in America were steam, another third were electric, another third were gas, and they're all fighting out to see which one would win out. People always knew electric was better then, but nobody had electricity in their house.
Yeah.
How do you make electricity? That was just seems so, and it seems scary to people.
Yeah.
You know, the Hotel Vendome in Boston was the first hotel ever to have electricity, and they would have wall plates. Do not be afraid to throw this switch. You will not be electrocuted. You know, just they warn you how to turn on the light. You know, and it's just all kinds. Because people were like, "Ooh, electricity was kind of scary."
Wow.
You know, yeah.
Imagine that now.
But you realize most people had never really gone much more than a walking pace prior to this, you know.
And automobiles were toys for the rich back then.
Yeah. I mean, prior to 1900, armies moved at 5.2 miles an hour. That was a brisk march. And you couldn't get across a continent. It would take you weeks to do it, you know. And then all of a sudden, imagine that World War I seemed like the most frightening war. You had planes, you had cars. Mm-hmm. It was like crazy, just crazy.
We've advanced pretty quickly the last 200 years.
I mean, this seems, if you said to someone today, 3 valves per cylinder, overhead cam, oh, we were talking about a modern car. No, I'm talking about something from the very dawn of the automobile. And it looks cool. I mean, it's really styled. I love the way this is integrated in. You'd think they would have the big brass radiator or chrome, no chrome, but nickel plated. And I like the way it sort of cuts through the air. I mean, they knew about these things back in those days. Yeah, just beautiful. Carry extra spark plugs here. So many cars in this era, there were no gas stations, so you just tried to carry everything with you. Some of them even, does this have a pump on the other side to pump up the air to tires?
No, it doesn't have that.
Okay. Some of them had that too. That was another one. And these are the priming cups in the cold weather. You'd open this, put a little gas in there, shut it, and that would aid in starting. And
she hadn't been driven in a few years, and that's what we did to get her up and running. And it was, you know, lit up like July. It's a little tricky to get started, ergonomics and all.
Did this have an electric starter in 13?
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Well, we have the floor starter.
Oh, okay. Because that was American. We invented that.
Yeah.
Charles Kettering, he worked for National Cash Register. Interesting story. He had a friend of his stop to help a woman whose car stalled on the railroad tracks, and you know he pulled the crank, but she had the ignition advanced, and the crank came around. His own fist broke his jaw, and he died of blood poisoning. And the city of Detroit went crazy. Dangerous automobiles, and this brave man being, you know, saving a woman from getting stuck on the tracks. He paid with his life, blah blah. So Kettering invented that, And then, of course, that led to a whole series of other inventions. Where you took a cash register motor, geared it down, put it in a car, and you had the self-start.
This is innovation back then. People, I always say this with our musical instruments we have and the cars, people were a lot smarter back then. And we actually do have that Cadillac that came with the very first starter, 1912.
I don't know if they were smarter, but everybody, you sort of had to know how to do everything. You were the master of your own domain, so to speak, you know. Like when you bought a Model T, in the owner's manual, oh, here's how you adjust the valves. You know, who would do that now? You don't do anything to the car. Just people could check the oil. Oh, I don't have to check the oil. You know, you had to do so much work if you owned an automobile. It's pretty cool.
Well, they were also a lot easier to work on. Everything is right there in front of you like a tractor engine. I mean, I have a 10-year-old Jeep that I wanted to replace the spark plugs in.
Yeah.
So I was watching a video, and you have to take pretty much half the engine apart to remove all these things just to get to the spark plugs.
Well, it's interesting, you know, because steam was the prevailing technology in the day. Steam ran everything from about 1811 to about 1911. And then when this came in, people were like, whoa, 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 because steam, slow, dependable, you know, that was good enough for steam. You didn't have to have everything exactly, you know. Plus it's slow moving, so it wasn't over revving, it cut your finger off, you know, anything. So the gas engine, it took a while to switch people over because that looks pretty complicated. If you're a farm boy, you go, how does this work?
Sure.
You know, it's pretty neat, pretty neat. Well, let's go around the car some more here. I love all the nickel.
Yeah, nickel I always preferred over chrome.
Yeah, well, chrome didn't come in till 27, 28, 29, but there's a nice soft sort of glow to nickel that is really nice.
I like to call this car a piece of jewelry. That's what it kind of looks like to me. And it does have an electric starter because you have to switch it to magneto once the engine's running.
Right. So it did leave the factory with electric start. I think that was sort of the first 11, 12 was the first experimental, then it gained ground pretty quickly. Those aren't seats, those are chairs.
Yeah.
You're sitting in a chair.
It's a lazy boy.
Yeah, I mean, it's great.
Really comfy car. The best way to start it is from the passenger seat in the front because you kind of have to go like that with your foot on the ground, and then after you prime it, switch over to magneto. But it's really not that difficult. She starts right up, runs great.
You put the grease in here to keep the chain lubricated.
And this is about high end as it gets. This car was $8,000 new in 1913.
Yeah, when you figure a house was a nice house was $1,200.
Yeah.
You know, so $8,000. It would be like buying a Bugatti Veyron today.
Right, yeah, that, a Pagani, any of those, Koenigsegg, if I'm pronouncing that right. I mean, this is a full-blown supercar of the era.
And it's interesting, something that came much later was we were also taken with the idea of having some sort of mascot or a flying eagle or a greyhound dog or something on the top. But no, that isn't the way it was designed.
I love the old Mercedes logo. It's missing the ring around it. And Mercedes was considered the most powerful automobile in the world when these were coming out.
Do you know what the three prongs are?
I don't actually.
Air, sea, and land. They had vehicles that conquered all the, you know, that was the idea. You're right, there was a circle that went around it. But let's open the other side and show them what that side looks like. Let's see what intake, what the exhaust side looks like. I like the way the cutouts get around the exhaust. Look at that, that's great.
And there's inserts for the hood to go into the body.
Right.
Henry Labradette was a very smart man.
Okay.
Managed to make it beautiful.
Here's your overhead valves right here, which is pretty sophisticated. Look how long your push rods are going down to your cam. But this is what ruled the land, sea, and air back in the day. And you see these oilers here? This pumps oil up here, oil goes down into this little cup right here. And there's like a sponge-like material in there that soaks the oil in, and that keeps it lubricated. That just drops droplets of oil on there. In those days, they're concerned about leaving oil on the ground. But
it works great too. It just makes your engine bay a little dirty after a while.
But this was quite modern for the time because a lot of earlier cars, you had the big oiling cups here. You have to put oil in them. You know, so many drops, like 28 drops per minute. You have to adjust each one. You know, whereas this is just shooting oil all over the place all the time.
And I love of the era your oil pressure gauge in the interior where you just watch them drop.
Yeah, you count the drops, and then bang, you hit a tree or something. Yeah. And you know, it's so funny because they really wanted that wow factor when they opened the hood. So they had a lot of nickel, a lot of brass, a lot of copper. I mean, it really is impressive. It's like opening the back of a watch when you look at these things. Really nice, really nice. Okay, we can shut it up down here, I guess. As you can see, it's a full-size automobile. It's a big car, this thing.
Very big, but very light for considering.
Yeah, it is light.
We haven't weighed it, but it's it looks a lot heavier than it is.
Yeah, you think it's all thin. There's no door guard beams or any, you know, not even a roof. So it's probably pretty light, you know. Very nice. And of course, the dash is way under there. It's just kind of so funny. You have to look down.
Yeah, you got to duck. And with the large steering wheel, when you start it, like I said, it's easier just to sit in the passenger seat and kind of reach over.
Right.
Or else you're, and I tried to use my foot to switch it to mag, and you just can't get the leverage.
Oh, yeah. So you started on coil, and then once running, you switch over to mag.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mag was, mags were actually very good, but they were just very expensive to manufacture. A battery and coil, you had a battery which carried your electricity, then it went into the coil with points and everything. And compared to a magneto, even now, getting a magneto redone can be thousands of dollars.
Yeah, we would know all about that.
Yeah, I know.
We've got a lot of magnetos.
A little crazy.
But they work great.
Well, let's take her for a spin and see how she goes.
Let's do it. Good to go.
Second. Try to do this first. Okay, here we go. Clutch is not bad.
No, it's not horrible once you shove your foot through
Not
it.
exactly power steering.
Yeah. You'll feel the torque though.
Boy, this feels like a car from the 20s or 30s. It doesn't seem like the dawn of motor in here.
Right.
And boy, it's smooth and it's fast. Wow.
Yeah, you can drive this thing pretty good.
Oh, you don't need synchro mesh. Everything's moving so slow, you know.
All about the timing. It goes down the road great.
It really does.
122 years old, not bad.
Yeah, nice. Boy, this more than keeps up with modern traffic. It's pretty amazing. Shifts wonderfully. And as bad as the roads are in California, they're way better than they were in 1913.
Right. And it's nice and comfy up here.
Oh, yeah.
Suspension's doing its job, soaking up the bumps. I mean, imagine doing 100 miles an hour in this.
I know.
So how does this compare in driving to yours? Because you've got quite a beastly one compared to this.
Well, mine's an old race car. The torque feels like the same. It's a lot bigger motor than this, but this is way more sophisticated than mine.
And what year is yours?
14.
14, okay.
Well, it's a 1910 Mercedes chassis with a 14 aero engine in it. But same basic engine setup.
Yeah, that thing's a monster. Nice. So 100 miles an hour in 1913. I believe Napier was the first car to reach 100 miles an hour.
Well, the Stanley Steamer in 1906 ran 127.
Wow.
But that wasn't a car the public could buy.
We have a GoPro Brie that reached over 100 in 1909.
Yeah.
But I know that there's different 100-mile-an-hour
Well, you know, it's so funny. They've always been fast. It's getting them to stop and go around corners where you have your trouble.
Yeah, no kidding.
But you're not fighting with the transmission or the clutch. It's nice.
No, it shifts nicely.
Yeah.
It's like any traditional crash box. You just gotta not be too gentle with it.
No, but it's fine. I mean, you have to muscle a little bit, but it's very progressive. It's wonderful. And you just pause with your shifts, it clicks right in. Watching the oil filter.
Yeah, only this one will drip. We talked to.
No, the other one's dripping too. I saw.
Yeah, this is the constant one.
Right.
Our mechanic, Dave Ritter, who built this car, he's basically like the whisperer for old antiques. Told me all about it.
I don't want to climb any hills in San Francisco with it, but the brakes are okay.
Yeah, I don't have torque to go up the hills.
Oh yeah. Just the fact that you can drive this in LA traffic.
Oh yeah, we were gonna drive it over here to you today, but the tires are old, so we just didn't want to risk it. We'd let you blow them up, not us.
Yeah, there you go.
And of course, we gotta point out we've got exhaust cutouts.
Oh yeah.
Have at it.
Sounds like the drum corps coming through. What are you on, 35, 40?
Yeah, about 30.
Yeah.
35.
There you go.
You're almost at 40.
But this feels about right, about the speed you want to be cruising at.
Oh yeah. It just goes so nicely down the road.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Can't find them, grind them.
Let's open that cutout. There you go. Sounds throaty.
Sounds like an alligator growl.
I know. How many of these exist?
Out of existing currently, very few.
Yeah.
A little more than a dozen maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many they actually built. We tried to reach out to Mercedes-Benz Classic Center.
Yeah.
But as far as this coachwork, the Double Phaeton Torpedo, I have no idea. This may be the only one left.
Yeah.
I mean, this car, it was bought new and delivered to Paris, France in 1913.
Yeah.
But from 1930 up until 1984, we have no records of it.
Wow.
And neither does Mercedes.
Was it a rough shape when you got it?
It wasn't that bad. It was this, it was a tan color.
Yeah.
It was pretty ugly looking.
Yeah.
But we decided to finally paint it the correct color black and clean it up, fix the fenders, suspension, all that. And the second we got on this road, the temperature just dropped right back down.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite relaxing to drive. It's not like you're on pins and needles. Oh, slower cars in front of us.
Yeah, I know. 45.
Yeah. And plenty more. The engine's barely working.
Oh, it's just lightly jogging right now.
I know. I mean, the amount of vibration is minimal. It's not bad at all. I mean, if you were born in 1910, this might have been something you drove to high school.
Yeah.
You know, you got an old car, you paid $10 for it.
Man, that sounds good.
I mean, it's interesting about Mercedes-Benz because there was never a point these weren't the best automobiles.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, they built crappy little cars and then they get, you know, they built the best stuff from day one. Once that gear oil gets hot, boy, it shifts like butter.
Gotta love a crash box. You're still in third, wow. We're just chugging along at 35 miles an hour.
I know. And it's a 4-speed. Most cars were a 3-speed. It looks so stately going down the road.
It's a terrifying looking car, you know, when it's going down the road. But
I mean, it does look like speed. So many cars in this era look like top hats on wheels, you know?
Yeah.
You know, they got big high windshields and all that. And with the top down cruising in this thing, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the gentleman who previously owned it did lower it, but we restored it to be a concourse car, but you know, that doesn't mean it doesn't run great.
Right.
We love to drive it. But yeah, it has a really sleek design to it. We've got cars from the 40s that don't drive as good as this.
Yeah. Well, you know, when this was built, it had to be good because you're trying to sell the public on a new idea.
Yeah.
And it's like when the Teslas, electric cars are all terrible. You know, if there was ever a problem, I mean, gas cars catch fire every day. Electric cars,
still had a king.
Yeah, that's right.
And here we are driving it in 2025.
Cameron, thanks for bringing this. This thing's a real treat. If you want to see more of these cars, and you won't see them anywhere else, go to the Nethercutt Museum. Is that what it is?
Yeah, nethercuttcollection.org is our website. So
nethercuttcollection.org. It's one of the great car museums in California. Consequently, they've got the